Hello everyone, and welcome back to episode 2 of my park tour of Sturmy Land. Last time I told you a bit about the layout of the park and went over the center area and the area near the entrance, showing you some cool roller coasters, tiny themed areas, funny throw rides, and my questionable skills in creating scenery art. If you missed that part, the video link will be in the description. Today we are going to focus on the northern part of the park, going over the forest area, the mountain area, and what I did in the area between them to connect these two areas. So without further ado, let's hop in right back into the park, and we'll start today at the forest area. Like I mentioned previously, I modeled this area after the forest that Sika parrot lives in. And because the area is supposed to be a respiratory area where you can rest, there aren't that many rides into this compared to the previous area. The stars of the show are obviously the rides which are named after Sika. And she obviously also got the only roller coaster of this area. The inverse impulse coaster, Sika's antlers, were modeled after the antlers of hers only. And I obviously tried to make them look Sika colored, so the downwards part, which is in pink, is supposed to be representing the outlines of her hair, whereas the light brown color are the actual antlers. In addition to that, she also got two go-kart tracks next to the roller coaster. The first one is simply called Sika Circuit, and it's a more basic go-kart track design. With only features a few Sika-themed scenery objects like deer and some nice-looking trees. The second one is a more complicated design, and I got inspired by a park that I saw on New Element Designs, which tried to recreate Mario Kart tracks as accurate as possible in Roller Coaster Tycoon. So how did the creator of the park do this? What they did was they built regular go-kart tracks, then used the tile inspector to make the entire track invisible, and in its place they built a new track exclusively using scenery objects. And I wanted to recreate a similar magic using this technique. So I ended up asking Sika, what was your favorite Mario Kart track? And she told me one of her favorites was Ribbon Road, and I decided the layout is simple enough and that I could maybe recreate this. But I obviously wanted to give it my only spin, my Sika spin on it, because we're making Sika Kart and not Mario Kart. So I checked out the layout of Ribbon Road from Mario Kart 8, and I tried to recreate the layout as accurate as I possibly can, which I did by using like the loops, the jumps. I also tried to do like the spinning ribbon waves by making the outside part go up and down. I obviously couldn't edit dynamic movement, and I obviously wanted to add like a little jump, like try to recreate the glider section by making a giant invisible jump using invisible track. I also used the Edit Ride Vehicle plugins to give every racer a different kart to convey that Mario Kart feeling. To give a Sika spin to this ride, I added a couple of details to it. So first of all, I changed the color scheme to colors that Sika likes. And I also tried to add a little bit of Sika lore to the ride. So the first loop represents her childhood when she was still a deer, whereas the second loop is supposed to be representing her childhood as after she got transformed into a magical girl, with Mama Lincoln educating little Sika. And the outside area is representing modern Sika. Obviously we can't make a Sika themed area as a whole without adding a little princess joke, so here we have Princess Sika's castle. And with a typical denial all placed all over the track. And for the final, we obviously have a huge jump, which in Mario Kart is a glider section, which I obviously can't add gliders to the go-karts, but in our case, the jump goes over water, which is obviously representing Seeker's fears of bathing and swimming, because inside the water area you can see a deer which is drowning. Obviously, my headcanon why Seeker doesn't want to swim, because she almost drowned as a kid. And, well, obviously there's also a crashed go-kart with Princess Seeker in it, which obviously is only reaffirming that trauma that she already suffered. In addition to that, this area features a few more smaller rides. First of all, we have a haunted mansion for Mel. She wanted one, and of course I obliged and I placed it very close to her darling. By the way, starting from this area, I tried to place friends and related people close to each other, which is something that I didn't consistently do in the previous area. Next, we have a little coffee shop for Lincoln. She wanted one, so I built this giant building called Linda's Coffee Vault, which features, apart from coffee, it also features cake and cookies, and an outdoor sitting area where you can enjoy a view on the lake. Then, at the corner of the map and a very calm area surrounded by trees, I built a little theater for Kyoko, where people can go and sit and enjoy listening to some poetry. And right next to it, I built a twist variation with a green monster with multiple eyes, and I figured it perfectly is a representative for her friend Iris, who is an Eldritch Librarian VTuber. So I placed it there, and that wraps up what is in the forest area. And I hope you liked it. And with the forest area completed, let's move on to Area 3, which I originally designed as a wildcard area. In this area, I had a bit of change on how I approached design of my rides. Previously, I mostly just took what people requested and I just built it and I called it a day. And starting from this area, I'd rather view all these areas as mini vaults that actually should have a cohesive design. Areas in previous vaults, which are like the go-kart vault with Seeker or the water park with Wandering Wolf games, were actually retroactively added to look like they were planned to be cohesive. So this is just like a little tidbit. This vault can be separated in 3 little sub-vaults. First of all, we have a night-themed area for Live the Nighters. And then we have a little futuristic town for my friend Xerxes. And at the very top, we have a bit of a fairy tale themed area going on for multiple people, which kind of lost a little bit of its theming because I was running out of properly themed rides. So it's a bit all over the place. Originally, Liv just requested to have a little park for herself with some flowers to enjoy, but I had plenty of night-themed rides and scenery left that I didn't use yet, and I didn't have anyone for who it would fit, so I just decided to just throw everything out for her. So, apart from her park, she also got a little castle, where Sari and her are sitting on top. She also got a riding course training, which is a steeplechase with the horse cars. We also have a trebuchet ride, which it's a trebuchet, a catapult from the Middle Ages, so it obviously fits here. And we also have a circus in that area, because I didn't previously use that either. Then, if we go a little bit north, we have Xerxes-topia, a request for my friend Xerxes. What he requested was that he wanted to have a roller coaster that goes through a futuristic city. So this was quite a challenge to build because I had to take the city inside of the coaster in mind while designing it. So I had to leave plenty of spaces for buildings and other buildings, paths, shops, and other related things. So I came up with this design for the Twister roller coaster, which, by the way, is one of the coolest designs in the park for me personally. And I left plenty of space for buildings and other smaller rides. For example, I built 2 giant skyscrapers to the left and to the right, which have freefall towers and rotodrops hidden within them. I also used the 3D cinema, which I think it perfectly fits the aesthetic of the futuristic town. Then I also add other smaller flat rides which kind of give like a futuristic vibe, like this double inversion over here, or the time machines, an X-Wing movie house which looks like a giant futuristic jet that you can just go into. We also have the flying saucers, and we have this Rick's twin blade, which looks like some kind of futuristic device. For the color schemes, I mostly went with blue and purple, because I know he is a huge fan of Hyperdimension Neptunia, and his request was certainly with Neptunia in mind. So this was obviously the dominant color of the roller coaster, and I tried to apply it to the other smaller rides whenever it was possible. And of course, because it's Xerxes Topia, we also have his OC Xenia as the guardian of the city that you can see here. This design inspiration also influenced obviously what type of ride music I added once I learned how to add custom ride music. Then, if we go to the very north of Area 3, we have an area that is supposed to be fairy tale themed. Why did I decide to go with this theme? Well, we have a magical forest next to it, so it would feel like a very natural transition between the worlds. The highlight of this area is supposed to be the Hardline Twister, which is named after my part-time familiar, Moni Nian, which is named the Sleepy Cat. This is actually one of the 2 rides where one of the people who submitted an idea actively designed with me while I was building it. By telling me like, I want this color, please color the cards like this, I want this card, please build the track like this. And you know what? It was a very enjoyable experience, so I'm very grateful for that. And I could then further go with the theming by placing spinning cups themed after Alice in Wonderland and a small ladybug twist, which also fits the Wonderland aesthetic. I actually decided to be a little bit funny and decided to theme this area after my friend Rose, or Saki Yosei, whose OC is a fairy, so she fits right in. And because her Discord status is that she loves small beans, her ride is obviously surrounded by these small bean sticks. While this is all and good, there was just a tiny little bit of a problem. I was running out of rides which had a fairy tale theme. So I was stretching this theme quite hard. Like, because we have like giant insects and giant animals as a theme, I went with a spider carousel and this spider monster twist. And for some reason which I can't tell you now, I also decided to build this random super looper in this area. So yeah, strong start, and then we fell off very drastically. And well, since I was running out of rides, I just decided to finish off the area to the right with pretty much anything that I could build. So for Ursa there was a little fun house, which has like a confusing path. And for Summer I decided to do a little crooked house, and I called it Summer's Fancy New House Design. And you know what? Because Summer is a moth, it obviously needs to include a lot of lamps. And well, then Grell requested something really cool. I mentioned that I didn't build the mini golf yet, and he decided, you know, you could build a haunted mini golf, which goes through a haunted garden, and I liked the idea. So I built it with a giant haunted garden where you can also see spiders, and you can go into caves with bats. And I obviously combined the golf course with a haunted mansion. So we have Grell's Haunted Mini Golf, which I think is a really nice looking combo ride. Then, before I decided to move on to the mountain area, I also saw that the coastal area of the river, which are not on the island, are still free to grab. And I decided to also fill them with something. So on between area 1 and area 3, I decided to build another small kiddie roller coaster for Menya, because he only got 2 rides so far and he didn't get a roller coaster, whereas nearly everyone who requested something got something, and I felt like I was lowballing him. So we have this roller coaster called Menya the Cat King. And on the other side we have a giant pig. So how did it come to this? So I talked about it with a Steam friend of mine called Pork, and I mentioned it that I was building a park, and I told him, yeah, you can request stuff. And what he requested was, build something to honor pigs. And I was looking really hard what I could do, because I checked any designs and there was literally nothing pig related. There was no pig scenery object. So I had to think really hard of what I could do for pigs. And then it dawned on me, I could build a roller coaster that looks like a pig. And this is exactly what I did. It looks a little bit derpy, but I think mission is succeeded. And you know what? It fits here perfectly, because it literally fits nowhere else. Well, in hindsight it may have fit next to the giant cat roller coaster, but the spot was then already taken, so I can't really do much anything about it anymore. As a result, I stopped using flat rides as filler and instead decided to work with scenery in its stead, therefore creating more nice looking, larger mini vaults. However, this isn't that much of a concern for the mountain vault, because, well, flat rides can only be built on flat grounds, which is not much available in this area. Instead of using a lot of flat rides, most of the area therefore is taken up by scenery and by tracked rides like roller coasters. However, all of these elevation changes also give you the potential to make some really nice looking roller coasters that blend in perfectly into the terrain, as well as making use of tunnels. So let's take a look of how I made use of these unique properties. Most of the area ended up being used in order to fulfill Chikaku's request. He requested a water roller coaster, and I figured it would work perfectly in this space because there is a river going in there. So you could build the roller coaster on top of the hill and make it go slide downwards into the river, and then have the boats of the water coaster right through the river like a little river ride. Decided to build a little tunnel relatively close to the entrance of the roller coaster, which leads to a little outlook spot where people can watch and enjoy the view on the river and see the boats passing by. However, the track option for the water coaster was very limited, so I wasn't perfectly happy how the coaster turned out, and I felt I could make a nicer looking coaster. So I just decided, you know what, let's build a second coaster, and this one is more focused on action. And with the wooden coaster, there is a perfect coaster type for it available, because it has loopings and it also has water elements. This coaster is very similar in design to the first one, except due to being a wooden coaster, I have a lot more design elements available, such as steep downwards track, and loopings, and banked corners, and helixes, and, well, of course it also features the signature second entrance to a lookout place. The mountain area is supplemented by a third roller coaster, which is called Tony's Dino Land, a request by Tony or Warren Graham fan on Twitch. What he wanted was a roller coaster that goes through the dinosaur park, and this is exactly what I built. For the coaster type, I decided to go with a mine train coaster because I figured the aesthetic of the train fit prehistoric theming relatively well because of how not perfectly engineered it does look. I again wanted to play with the elevation changes of the terrain, and I also included a little tunnel section within the track. Otherwise, the area is supplemented by a few little flat rides. Actually, this time I actually built a mini world just existing of 2 flat rides and otherwise just scenery. When I went through the list of flat rides which I didn't build yet, there were 2 that caught my eye. The Mystic Orb twist and the Pumpkin twist. And I could immediately relate them to a person I know. The witch Kayla May. For those who don't know her, she is the autumn witch who lives in the forest, and she uses the seasonal orbs, and she has a familiar with a pumpkin head. So obviously the pumpkin twist could be a ride themed after her familiar, and the mystic orb could be rebranded as seasonal orbs. And with the concept in my mind, I had a vision for a nice looking mini world. So yeah, the witch obviously needs a witch house, and it also obviously features the witch's soup. And based on her chat joke, I also decided to put a hat store in here. For context, she has a redeem that allows you to steal her hat. And I figured that would be a very good joke by placing signs near the house that say, "Get off my lawn! Get your hat over there! Stop stealing mine!" and similar things. But based on the fact that the NPC, which I chose to represent for Kayla, doesn't have a hat, we can conclude that all her efforts into encouraging people to not steal her hat were obviously useless. What a shame. Next to the autumn forest, we can also see a crashed spaceship. Well, who could be coming out of the spaceship? Of course, it's a very friendly rainy day alien who offers you some drink and some umbrellas. Apart from him, we also have another visitor from space, although the second one is hidden more sneakily. Foxy has found a cave and decided to make it her little breeding lair. Of course, she sells some hot sausages, delicious owner hole donuts, and of course, you can breed with her in her spaceship, which can move forwards, backwards, sideways, because, well, it goes on very wild if you breed with Foxy. And because I saw that Foxy made my guests way too horny, I decided to build a cure to that problem at the exit of her breeding layer by introducing the horny jail, where you can serve your time and hopefully can finally be happy and not be horny anymore. And right next to the horny jail, we have my own interpretation of the Windseeker or Starflyer that OpenRCT2 tutorial made a tutorial on. I made the ride themed around Kizanari Kyu. Inspired by Greek mythology based on her outfit, I obviously placed it on the highest point of the park, which was exactly this hill, because, well, people tried to climb the Olymp to reach the realm of the gods. From the top of the park, you could then go into the Starflyer and rise up to the realm of the gods, where you could visit her. However, a lot of the visitors were very indecent and did the unthinkable and called her cute. She obviously didn't like that, and she got really angry, so a massive aura of anger is turning around her. So please guys, stop calling her cute. It's for the safety of Sturmy Land. Then further down in the river I also built a Chinese swinging ship because it fits aesthetically really nice with Chicago's water coaster, which have a more Asian themed or dragon themed design going on. And to cap off the mountain area, we have our very first Drumroll please. Our first mini world that is a crossover between two areas, between the mountain area and the ice area. This hybrid area is based on the lore of fellow Twitch streamer Lumi Aurore, a yokai shrine maiden. Because she is a Yuki-onna, it obviously makes sense that her village is located in the ice area. Based on its location, it also makes sense that the entire town is about ice skating. So of course we have the ice skating ring, and we have the car ride with the ice skater cars. I used the Edit Ride Vehicle plugin to create a gap between Skater 4 and Skater 5. So it looks like there were two teams of 4 competing against each other. And the ride is called Lumi's Great Challenge, because the winner team can get acknowledged by Lumi by visiting her in her temple up here. I also built some grandstands for people to watch the race between the two teams, using the same technique that I used previously for Kyoko's Theater or Ina-san's movie theater. This is all fine and good, but I mentioned at the start that this has to do with Lumi's lore, and I didn't mention that at all yet. You see, originally the humans and the yokai used to be enemies, and young Lumi actually left the village when she was young. And well, she got stuck and she was about to die because she got into hotter areas, and well, ice yokais obviously can't survive in hotter areas. And she was eventually brought to the human village. And from there, the relationship between the human and the yokai actually began improving. This is a very, very rough summary of what happened. During that trip, she also met her friend Nixie, who is actually the leader of the human village and lives over here. And to celebrate the newfound bonds between the community, there was a bridge built between the two villages, which were previously separated by a river, called the Bridge of Friendship. This is not part of the lore, but I figured it would be a perfect way to symbolize the newfound alliance. And to celebrate this event even further, we also have this roller coaster, which has the cheeky name, the Coaster of Friendship. It's a coaster in shuttle mode, which starts in the human village, goes over the river to the yokai village, before having the end of the shuttle over the river, right in the middle, so it basically belongs to both communities. For this reason, it should be obvious why I can't explain the human village without the yokai village and vice versa. And this wraps up the mountain area as well as part 2 of our tour of Sturmy Land. I hope you had a lot of fun, and you will look forward to part 3, where we will take a look at the rest of the ice area as well as the southern areas of the park. And with that, I wish you all a very nice day. Bye bye!